Well, good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us on this webinar this evening. It's an absolute pleasure to be presenting the webinar, and it's superb that Altris AI have sponsored the evening. So thank you very much for that. I'm presenting this evening with the help of Dr. Maria Znamenska, and she is an associate professor of ophthalmology and the chief medical officer at Altris AI. And she's been practicing as an ophthalmologist for 20 years and is a retina imaging expert with extensive knowledge of OCT and OCT angiography. Currently running educational programs in areas including medical retina, OCT, OCT angiography, glaucoma, myopia, and neuro-ophthalmology. So that's quite a lot to be educating on, and has been teaching OCT interpretation to retinal specialists for over 10 years now, and been leading the medical stream of research and developments for Altris since 2017. So it's a really great pleasure to be working alongside Maria this evening.
Thank you, Simon. Likewise.
As for me, some of you may know me, I'm probably more recognized in the field of ultra-wide field retinal imaging, which I've been involved with for some 30 years now. But this is where artificial intelligence and retinal imaging as a whole just cross over so perfectly. So what I want to try and put across this evening is sort of why I can naturally see artificial intelligence as the natural partner to me and optometrists within their consulting rooms. And hopefully at the end of the evening, you will see that too. So the webinar itself, it's been allocated one interactive CPD point. So to actually achieve this CPD point, I'm afraid you have to be here for the whole of the webinar, and you have to participate in the poll questions as they arise throughout the presentation. But just as importantly as that, it's really important that we have your GOC registration number in order that we can log you as being here, and we can give you your certificates at the end. So I'm always say to people, no number, no certificate, and no pointies. So what we'll be doing towards the end of this session is we'll be putting up a webinar link, a short questionnaire, and within that questionnaire, one of the things is to supply your GOC number. And then you just press on submit, and that'll come back to us. And that way we get your GOC number as well. So please do make sure you fill that in, or else, apart from getting some invaluable knowledge this evening, you'll be lacking your point at the end of it. So if you can do that, that would be really, really useful. As I say, that'll come up towards the end there. So we do have some domains and learning outcomes this evening, a few of those, and obviously these are always important, but under the clinical practice learning outcome, at the end of this, we would hope you would be able to describe how AI can assist the registrant with interpretation of OCT retinal images, describe how the analytical tools available can enhance your diagnostic ability, explain the outcomes of image analysis with the patient and other clinicians. And I'm going to stress that point quite a bit throughout. And you'll be able to explain how the software can help to present information in a way that your patients can understand, and how the graphics enable you to adapt your language and communication skills as appropriate. So that's all good. So let's kick off with what we've got. So funnily enough, yesterday, just as I was finishing off the presentation, the Times newspaper had an article by a chap called Ben Maruthapu entitled, "We Must Embrace Technology to Solve the Health Crisis." And I just thought it was so relevant to this evening. I just want to take a couple of quotes from there. He said, "Traditionalists may respond in fear at the mention of AI-led healthcare. But responsible machine learning and smart data analytics combined with preventative technology and smart data are key to building a health and care system fit to support our aging population. One where health risks are proactively predicted, prevented, and managed, reducing hospitalization." And he went on to say, "This is the time to embrace AI and not to fear it. We need tech innovators and pioneers working hand in glove with health and social care chiefs to build this new, more preventative model. AI can empower patients to make their own decisions about their health. It can aid better, faster, and more accurate diagnostics and prognostics. I mean, I could almost stop the evening there in one sense, because that's what AI brings to the table for us in a clinical setting. And as I say, I just thought it was so relevant to what we're saying here. So bringing it back into the optometry field, more and more we are managing more complex patients, more complex vision needs, more complex visual problems. And secondary care in this country is, as we all know, facing a major problem in terms of waiting lists. And as a result of that, what we're beginning to see with optometry and primary care optometry is far more what I call purist clinical optometrists arriving, doing far more therapeutical work, doing far more treatment, and far more skilled at diagnosing. And we're moving very much away from our traditional role of refracting and then looking at the retina and referring everything under the sun to the hospital, to a much more advanced, mature state. And I often refer to optometrists nowadays as what I call vision preservationists. We're taking people on that journey from birth right the way through and looking to preserve their vision and then making it clear at the end of it. So it's a completely new, exciting era. You will probably all know there are over 650,000 people sitting on waiting lists at the moment to be seen in the secondary care sector. And this is why it just makes natural common sense that optometrists are going to be fulfilling a much greater clinical role. And this is where retinal imaging helps us. Advanced retinal imaging using OCTs, using ultra wide field retinal imaging. It's used to inform us of changes and also normality at a much earlier stage, often in asymptomatic patients and often at just routine examination. And we need high quality analysis of those images. The data analysis has got to be good, it's got to be accurate. And this is where AI begins to help us dramatically. And as I say, we should see that as we go through. Now, the old problem we had in the good old days when I was at university was actually getting a decent thing to look at in the first place. We obviously were all taught how to use a direct ophthalmoscope, what I lovingly refer to as the guessing tube nowadays. And this gave us an image, but it was a small image. It was an image that we had to sort of build a composite view of within our head. Indirect ophthalmoscopy, Volkness, these were all giving us images of the retina, but they had severe limitations, a very limited field of view, definitely problems with media opacities. And our loving friend at the bottom there, we wouldn't even see their retina. But a lot of it was we need good patient cooperation and often need to dilate. And there's just been a paper come out which fascinated me about how ultra wide field imaging devices nowadays, the actual images you get are just as good without a need to dilate. So the old system of dilate and maybe scleral indentation, things like that, we're getting just as good a results on images in the periphery without dilation and all these sorts of things. So it's wonderful the way we're going. But again, the old method, we needed to interpret instantly what we'd seen. And unless you were actually sort of Picasso or, well, probably not Picasso actually, but a very good artist, it was very, very difficult to record accurately what you saw. And, you know, we look at all these wonderful images nowadays and they've revolutionized the way we can look at a retina. But again, they still have their drawbacks, maybe limited fields of views and still media issues. But we do now have a permanent image. But does this solve the problems of old? Well, the image is stable. We're not worried about the patient looking around all over the place. We do have a permanent record there that can be scrutinized. When I say at leisure, I mean at a later point in time. The image is available to us for follow-up. So this allows us to do progression analysis and trend analysis. So we can track changes within a patient over time. So these are all improvements. And the problem is, though, although those modern imaging systems have massively increased our ability to aid the patients, you would think it's a good thing, but there's now, it seems, a whole new raft of potential issues that some clinicians throw up at us. Fears can arise with these images. I don't know what I'm looking at. I might miss something that's there. I might miss some pathology. I don't understand what I'm looking at. I haven't had the training. And you'll notice a lot of times in many optometry courses, things like image analysis and ultra wide field image analysis and things like that, they're seen as postgraduate learning exercises rather than as part of an undergraduate core skill. And so what we tend to see is some clinicians live in fear of these images. I've even heard clinicians say, well, if I don't have any of this equipment in my practice, then I haven't got an image here that I can be hung on if I've missed something. And I think that sort of reaction is more born out of fear than anything else. And artificial intelligence can help massively to alleviate that fear. And that's what I want to demonstrate tonight. You could ask a lot of sales teams of these companies, and they will say to you that these are the sort of things that you hear when they're talking to clinicians face to face. And I know when I've been on booths at exhibitions or conferences, these are the sort of things that I'm hearing from people. And I spend a lot of my time as an educator teaching people to interpret images and therefore alleviating those fears. So whereas once we struggle to actually get a clear image, now we marvel at that image, but we still, a lot of people live in fear of how to interpret that image. And why? Why is that such a big challenge? Well, often image analysis is a lone affair. You're sat in a consulting room with a patient, and often, especially if you're working in a single-handed environment, you can look at something and you don't know what you're looking at, and you don't know what to do with what you're looking at. And you've got no one who is there to help you, no one to bounce ideas off, no one to give you a second opinion. And if you look at sites such as the Optics OCT forum and the Optics Optomat forum, this gives an indication of the size of the challenge. Many times a week, some people will put up images on those forums, and beautiful images of things going wrong, and invariably it is accompanied by the question, what am I looking at? And what should I do with what I'm looking at? And it's people all the while seeking the intelligence of their peers. And the problem is the temptation can be to refer to be on the safe side. Now, I can promise you the secondary care sector do not want masses of referrals from us just so as we can be on the safe side. They've got enough problems with those 650,000 patients waiting to see them in the first place. And it carries a high level of reputational risk. Firstly, from the secondary sector saying, well, frankly, we don't want to deal with this person because they're just sending so much work we don't need. But possibly more importantly, from the patient. Reputational risk is when people start saying, don't go there. Don't use them. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're saying. They put me through so much for no good reason. Your reputation can be damaged. And you know, and I know that if we say to a patient, I'm just referring you to the eye clinic, what the patient actually hears you say is, you're going blind. And they will panic about that referral until such time as they get to be seen in the eye clinic. And if they've waited 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks to be seen, and then somebody says, oh, yes, we've got your image here, and it's showing a little bit of change, but it's normal. Don't worry about it. Frankly, I don't know why they referred you in the first place. Just think of the reputational risk that's there. And that's a really important affair. So what really we need is, we've got these beautiful images, but what we need is a partner to aid us in the assessment process. Now, yes, it can be achieved by lots and lots of training. And as I say, that's what I spend my life doing, and working face to face with patients, with practitioners, or in sessions like this. But what we've now got and what we're talking about this evening is the benefits of artificial intelligence software. The solution there can give us so many benefits. AI can recognize readily a mass of retinal conditions and flag these up to the clinician and flag up the severity of them and flag up the sort of the action plans we should take. And this is what we're looking at this evening. So at this stage, as I say, it's important you answer all the questions within the session. So here is question 1. If we could bring that up for me, please.
It's done. It's on. So
is it? Sorry, I couldn't. I don't see it on my screen, do I?
Yeah, because you're in a tab chat. But if our listeners could open the polls chat, they can vote for the questions that you can see on the screen. So please do that. And I think we will give another 15 or 20 seconds. And then we will end the poll and we will look through the results. Look at results. Okay. So
yeah, I've got it all up now so I can see that. So
good.
I'm very, very pleased. We're off to an absolute cracking start with you all. So you're obviously right on the ball here. There's 100% answer there to C. Artificial intelligence can assist clinicians in arriving at a more accurate clinical diagnosis. And that's absolutely what we're wanting AI to do for us. So let's just take a look here at some of the what we call segmentation and classification. Now, for those that don't know what segmentation and classification is, I just want to go through a quick bit here. Segmentation is what we would call the biomarkers, or to put it more simply, signs of alterations to the norm. So if we're looking at a perfect retina that's perfectly healthy, possibly none of these things will be there at all. But when we look at an altered retina, segmentation is telling us what those alterations are. And you can see here just some of the pathologies that the artificial intelligence system can recognize straight away. And then classification gives us what I like to call the diagnosis. And so what are these things here leading us to decide is wrong with that patient? So classification, if you like, what pathology is there? But I prefer the term, the diagnosis of what is there. And so you can immediately see that once you show the image to the artificial intelligence, it is ready, raring to go to spot the sort of things that are changing. So let's just look at some of the perceived problems and where AI can help us. So spending too much time on non-pathological scans. And I have to say, one of the things that I've always noticed, often when I'm doing a session, I will put up an image of a retina and I will ask the audience, tell me what you can see on that retina. And there'll be a sort of stunned silence for about 30 seconds. And then after about 30 seconds, I will say, well, I can see an optic nerve head. I can see a macula. I can see some veins, and there's a sort of laughter around the room. And my next question is, what were you looking for? And everybody is looking for pathology. They're looking to find the bit of the retina that's wrong. And this is one of the problems with normal patients. We spend hours trying to find something wrong with them. That's part of our psychology, it appears. I always say, I promise you the patient doesn't want us to find anything wrong. But what AI immediately does is analyze that image. And if it's normal, from the data it shows us, we can instantly see this is a normal retina. And this is good for two reasons. We can move on. We know it's normal. We're not finding something there that we should worry about. But at the same time, it frees us up more time to talk to the patient about what's there. You came into me, you were worried, but you can see from this scan, there is nothing wrong with your retina. It is healthy. Or if there are minor findings, they're what I would expect to see. So the value of artificial intelligence is an instant response there. So less time spent reviewing and more time to either manage better or to discuss with your patient what is actually happening. The advantage of that, of course, is it allows you to see more patients if you want to. And if we want to be totally mercenary about this, then it gives us increased revenue potentially and an increased return on investment. But more importantly, it gives us increased patient satisfaction because we're interacting with them far more. A lot of clinicians have a fear of missing early or rare pathologies. If it's rare, we don't come across it much. We could well easily miss it, but missing early pathologies. So, 25% feel they're missing rare or early pathologies on average 3 times a week. And 31%, a third, believe they're missing pathology without even knowing it in the first place. I'm dealing with a patient at the moment. He's not a patient of mine. He's a friend of mine who had major retinal detachment, which required very, very complex surgery when it actually happened. But when he turned up at the eye clinic, it turned out he had 4 retinal tears and a mass of lattice degeneration in both retinas. Missed pathology. And so, people are right to be worried by that. But again, artificial intelligence can interpret those scans much, much more accurately by segmentation and classification down to very fine levels. And so even the smallest of changes, minor changes, early changes, will be picked up by the artificial intelligence software. Again, benefits us with more accurate diagnosis and improved patients' outcomes and satisfaction. And also, from my point as a clinician, improved confidence that I haven't missed anything. And then we get the complex scans. Patients have an annoying habit of coming in with more than one thing wrong. And that's really frustrating, because then you start looking at a retina and maybe you've got diabetic retinopathy there, and maybe you've got a whole multitude of bits of different types of diabetic retinopathy, but you then might have something else to go with it. There might be a retinoschisis. There might be some hypertensive change there. So there's a lot of information that can almost be mind-boggling when you try and analyze these images. Whereas with artificial intelligence, you've got that second opinion when dealing with complex scans immediately, and it will pick up everything that is on there. And so maybe you've seen a lot of things that are very, very straightforward. Oh, you see, but you may miss other things as well. On many occasions, I've seen people spot a chirpy, but completely miss a nevus. And of the two, the nevus is potentially more of a risk than the chirpy. Now, this isn't dealing straight with necessarily AI and what we're dealing with today, but it's easy to see one thing, get drawn to it and miss something else. And so consequently, the AI sits there behind you, finding everything that's there in a dispassionate way. Again, this gives us more accurate diagnosis and less time reviewing with other colleagues what you think's going on and allowing you to deal with it much more accurately. And I think one of the sad things is that 16% of optometrists don't offer OCT to a patient because they feel they lack the confidence in their interpretation skills. And I've heard this so many times about how you've got a machine sitting in a practice, a beautiful piece of kit, but it's redundant because it's just not used. And I use the term here, upskilling all optometrists. I don't mean upskilling in the sort of normal sense of the word, but giving them the ability, the increased confidence in their clinical skills with OCT interpretation, because they've got given, for want of a better word, the starter for 10. They've been given that steer as to what they're looking at. So they're not looking at something and thinking, what am I looking at? They've got that guide, they've got that steer. And so the confidence in the clinician grows. And with that confidence growing and with that understanding that, yes, I can interpret these images because I've got the artificial intelligence sitting next to me helping me, that basically says, right, I'm going to I'm going to start imaging these patients because I now have the ability to do that. So what does AI mean for optometry from the sort of the college standpoint, if you like? Well, you'll see here, these comments are taken from the autumn of 2018. So this is not new. This is not something we're sort of suddenly imposing on people. This is something that has been around for a while. And taking Piers Keane from Moorfields, his sort of comment, first of all, artificial intelligence explains to eye care professionals how it arrives at its recommendations. You don't just suddenly get a big flash up that says central serous retinopathy. It says by segmentation, here are the things that are happening in the retina that allow me to arrive at what it is. So you as a clinician can look at that and say, right, now I understand why it's doing what it's doing. And so that is so important for the level of confidence within the system itself. And it helps clinicians scrutinize the recommendations that the artificial intelligence is coming up with and check the accuracy against what they're thinking. And I think also something that's really important, and that is what is termed vendor neutral or device agnostic. And that's to say that this artificial intelligence software will take the image, the DICOM image that it's got in front of it, and it will analyze it, and it will basically come up with a set of answers. The problem is that different OCTs may well do things in a different way. So if you image somebody's retina on two different models of OCT, each one may come up with, for instance, a different retinal thickness because that's the way it does it. Whereas with this software, it's agnostic, it's neutral to the machine that's being used to obtain the image. It's the image that it's analyzing, it's not the machine that it's analyzing. And so consequently, you should get the same answers up from whatever machine. Now, the advantage of this, it can future-proof what you do in your practice. If you decide to upgrade between one imaging session and another, then the analysis that the artificial intelligence gives you will come out at the same. So if you're trying to monitor progression of something and somebody's retina comes out thicker the second time on a different machine, is it the machine that's telling you it's thicker, or is it a real-time change in that patient's retina? Artificial intelligence takes out the argument between the two machines and it dispassionately analyzes the DICOM image that it's got in front of it. And therefore, if there is change, it is real change. So you can afford to update your equipment. If you've got 2 or 3 practices, you can use different scanners in different practices, and you can still get a sensible answer there. David Crabb, just some interesting comments. AI has the potential to support optometrists to make the best possible use of a range of diagnostic tests. But like other equipment, it remains a tool to be used. And I want to really press this point home here. It's not going to take over our lives. It's not going to take over your life and my life and send us off in a yacht somewhere so we can go on holiday. It is a tool to aid us in our decision making. It's a time-saving tool, it's a resource-saving tool, and obviously as it improves over time, it's only going to get better. I thought I'd look at some Oxford English, well, some definitions of AI, just to see what the dictionaries think about it. It's quite interesting, really, because it's the theory and development of computer systems to perform tasks normally requiring human intelligence, such as visual perception, speech recognition, decision making, and translation between 2 languages. Wikipedia, intelligence perceiving, synthesizing, and inferring information demonstrated by machines as opposed to intelligence displayed by non-human animals and humans. And an intelligence without the benefit of human reasoning and logic. That benefit is obviously important, but the ability for the artificial intelligence to analyze dispassionately and take out any emotion that's in there to give us a clue from which to work forward. So let's look at question 2 now. And so in a recent survey, this will check whether you were listening or not. In a recent survey, what percentage of practitioners thought they were missing pathology without knowing it, which could lead to delays in patient treatment? Interesting, because I threw quite a few statistics at you there, and the majority of you are getting it right. About, if we just end the poll there, about a third of optometrists, so just over half of you here this evening, remember that it was about a third of practitioners thought they were missing pathology without knowing it. Quite a few of you thought it was 25%, but unfortunately it's a little bit more than that of people who feel insecure. Quite a few of you put 45%, which is very interesting. So, right. What I should just say at this stage, and I can't remember if I mentioned it at the beginning or not, if you have any questions as we go through here, please do add them into the chat. If you type your comment in the chat and just send it to us, we will be taking some questions at the end. But if any really pressing and relevant questions come up through, we'll try and answer those as we go through as well. But please, if you have any questions, do put those in the chat for us to use at the end. So just a quick look here at human intelligence and human experience. I spend an awful lot of my time analysing images sent to me from clinicians because they're not sure of what they're looking at. I will analyse those images and I will then deliver back to the clinician an answer and a set of sort of learning as to why I'm saying what I'm saying. So I'm kind of playing the human artificial intelligence role here by giving them that information. But it's slow and it takes time, and maybe they email me and I email them back 2 days later, or maybe I've had the audacity to go on holiday for a few days and I don't email them for a few days. Whereas artificial intelligence will give it straight away. But the important thing is, over time, they gain more knowledge from me helping them. It increases their human intelligence. And over time, they gain a larger portfolio of similar instances, and they increase their human experience. And actually, over time, they rely on me less and less as they become more and more proficient. And that's brilliant because they build their learning. But I can't know and do everything. Even I have limitations, whereas artificial intelligence can learn so much more than I can. So I like to think of artificial intelligence as the computerized clinician next to me, next to you. But it's not an escape for us. It's at all times, it's a guide, it's a nudge, it's a prompt. It's not going to give you definitive answers. It's not going to tell you exactly what to do, but it will give you probabilities. It will give you steers, and it will allow you to question further your observations. Oh, I thought it was that, but it says it's that. Why is it doing that? Maybe I'll go on and do another test in a different type of test to help me with my conclusion. I like to think of artificial intelligence as my additional assistant in the consulting room. It's providing me with invaluable signposts to aid my decision making. But absolutely fundamentally, it is not and never will be a replacement for your unique clinical skills. Yes, it's a help, but it will never be a replacement. So when you look at these systems, what I want within systems, and what this particular software that we're looking at here provides: quick screening and triage, severity, segmentation and classification. It's going to tell me what's there. It's going to tell me therefore what it's likely to be and how severe it is. Can I ignore it because it's normal? Do I need to be monitoring it? Do I need to be doing something about it? And if so, how much do I need to be doing about it? And it gives me data management, data security. Now, all formats of image in theory can be looked at with this software, but we talk DICOM nowadays. We move DICOM images and DICOM files of images around. And within that DICOM file, there is all the data that is needed for analysis, and it's so much more data, which makes the whole using of the system more easy to use. And let's just look at some bits and pieces here. So pathology severity visualization. I could ask any of you, if you knew nothing about what you looked at, and I said to you, green's good, yellow might be concerned, red is bad, you could just look at that picture and say, well, actually, yeah, whatever it is I'm looking at, I need to look at it in a bit more detail, because there's quite a bit of yellow there. So, you know, there is change there, and maybe there's a tiny bit of severe change there. But it's that immediate visualization of the image as it comes up on the screen. And that's really what I want as a clinician when I'm sitting in my clinic. Am I looking at something that really I need to be delving into in far more detail? Or is it something like this image, where I can tell by looking at the OCT image, but I can tell straight away from that box on the left there, this is a normal patient. This box is telling me, we can see we've got 128 scans there, and they're all normal. They're all line scans through that retina, and they're all normal. They're all within that normal region. I can move on now. I don't need to spend the next 2 or 3 minutes going through every layer of the retina thinking, haven't I got it right? Isn't it there? And so that immediate analysis shows me I can move on. But at the same time, I can reassure the patient that everything is normal there. And you can see here that with this software, we can analyze the thickness of the retina and separate the layers into 10 layers of the retina, or we can look at multiple layers. So immediately we can start moving around that image and looking at the data that each layer gives us within our analysis of that patient. And this is what I mean by artificial intelligence, is that I can put that up there and I can look at that without any guide, and I've got to go through a long analysis of that in my own mind. With the artificial intelligence sat there, it said, no, I've seen a few million of these images. That's normal, thank you very much. And that's what I want from artificial intelligence. Now that tells me something completely different. And we see on that I haven't got all the boxes up that I put up last time, but straight away you see here severity red, and there's an awful lot going on here, and the segmentation shows us we've got a lot of changes within that retina, and the classification shows us just what pathology we've got there. So immediately, again, I'm looking at an image and it's telling me what I'm looking at. Now, I might want to disagree with it, but what I've got there is what I need to know. If I'm not sure what I'm looking at, if I'm fairly new to OCT or something like that, this artificial intelligence is my partner telling me what I need to know. And we look at classification and segmentation here. So classification is as I said earlier on, the diagnosis, if you like. So this is telling us we've got wet AMD and choroidal neovascularization there. But the segmentation image is then telling us why we've arrived at that diagnosis, that classification that's there. So this is sort of informing me of why I've got to that classification. If I say, well, why have I got wet AMD there? What do you mean it's wet AMD? How can you tell me it's wet AMD? This is what this software is telling me. And I haven't got to go thumbing through a lot of textbooks to find out whether it's right or wrong. So let's come in at this stage and go for question 3. So if you'd like to go back to the poll here. And which of the following are desirable attributes in an AI OCT system? That's good.
Yeah, that's like everyone have voted for the only. Oh no, look, it's changing a little bit.
Somebody's out there trying us on. Basically, we want artificial. So let's end the poll there now. We want artificial intelligence to do all of these things. It's going to screen and give us quick triage. It's going to give us the extra details, the extra information. It's going to give us information at different layers, and it's going to give us visualization of that pathology and measurements. So let's take this a bit further then. So let's ask, if I'm going to have AI in my practice, what do I want it to do? Well, I sat and thought about this, and I want it to give me a heck of a lot, actually. If I'm going to use AI, you can tell me how good it is until the cows come home, but I want it to do a lot of things from my side of the fence. And you can just see there a list there of the things that I want. First of all, I want to trust it. I want to be able to know that when I use this and this is telling me things, I can trust what it's telling me. I want it to be easy to use. I want to be using it with minimal training. I want to be able to get it in one day, and I want to be using it, and I want to be using it for my patients straight away. I don't want to be a bit like the machine in the first place, getting it in and then putting it in the corner and not using it. I want it to be there, and I want it to be able to give me good reports, make easy reports. I want it, if possible, to help me with deciding how I should refer a patient, but I want it to be secure. And that's important there. So a long list of wishes and wants there. So just looking at this slide, bingo. Looking at those performance indicators, they are very, very good. But as with all these things, when we're putting in for CPD approval with the General Optical Council, this slide was put together a little while ago, and I'm very happy with those levels of performance indicators, but they're even better now. So whenever I'm looking at a system, I want to know that system is going to perform well, and it performs even better than it is saying there. And so that's good. That's what I want from any system. I don't want to, let's go back to a fundus camera. I don't want a fundus camera that takes low resolution images. I want the best I can get. And I want that for me, and I want it for my patients. And so we need a system which has got high performance indicators. Now, I want a system that's easy to install. I've installed software over the years in my practice when things were old and slow and clunky. And oh dear. But this now, you don't even install it. It's a web-based system. So if you've got web-based systems there that you can just log into with means of a password, more and more now systems work in the cloud and work on a web-based system. So you can log in with your password, and you've got straight full access to your software analytical system. And so it's hitting the button there as well. Is it easy to get to grips with? Well, when I first started looking at artificial intelligence, the very nice people at Altris sent me the software to load up and work with. I had no training with this system at all, and I was using it within half an hour, and I was happy with using it within half an hour. So again, things will change over time, but it's a system. Any clinician wants a system that's easy to get to grips with. And I was talking earlier on about using DICOM images. Nowadays, you can literally just upload the DICOM image into the system, and all its data comes with it. So all the old days you would manually input patient data and everything, that all comes across with the DICOM image. So again, from a clinician's point of view, not only is AI helping you with the image, it's helping you with running the whole sort of management of that patient around that image as well. And I mentioned earlier about easy to understand graphics. If I'm sitting in my consulting room and I've taken an image of a patient and I get the graphics come up like this is what I want to see. This is what my patients want to see. And you can see here we've got 128 of those 128 scans are all in the green. They're all normal. That graphic is easy to understand. Now, Maria is later on going to show you some real life sort of examples. And so I'm not going to break this down too much here, but you can all sit there and see artificial intelligence is sitting beside me in my clinic. I've taken an image, I've uploaded it, and the artificial intelligence says, yeah, you're good to go. Whereas when we look at these images, there's that one I just showed you on the left. Interestingly enough, the two yellow and red ones in the center, you'll see it says 0 scan. It's one scan there. These are early images that are uploaded that are probably JPEGs. They're not DICOMs. And this is why we use DICOM, because you've got so much more information there. And that's why we use the DICOM image. But you can see the right-hand image there. Immediately, as opposed to the left, which is totally normal, there's a little bit of something going on. So we scroll down to the line scan that corresponds to that yellow, click on that, and we will get the image up within our software with that actual line scan through this, so we can see what's going on. And the artificial intelligence at that stage will tell us what it says is going on, and we can judge our judgment against that. So here's a classic example. Here we see the generally retina looking okay, but with a yellow line there. So we might have missed some pathology on that because it's very, very slight. It's very, very early. But immediately the AI draws our attention to that area of the retina. And then when we look at the image there, we can see we've got some reticular pseudodrusen and some RPE change there as well. And our classification is telling us this is very early dry AMD. So something that may have been missed quite easily with us just reviewing it ourselves, immediately AI is picking it up and spotting it and telling us what it is, and allowing us then to make our judgments from there. So immediately, it's not a case of did I miss it, or if I didn't miss it, did I know what I was looking at? Your AI colleague next to you has given you the information that you need to know, and it's in an easy to understand format. And again, here we can see how these graphics are showing us this is not a normal retina, and we need to be looking at that in more detail. And you can see here the segmentation of that image immediately shows us we've got some fibrosis, we've got some neurosensory retinal atrophy. So what's going on there? Let's look at that OCT scan. And if you sit there and look at that, ask yourself, what am I looking at in this patient? If you know where to look at on that image, you'll see there is actually an answer there. But we go and look at the classification, and the classification tells us we've got diabetic retinopathy with epiretinal fibrosis. So again, the AI is leading us in a direction where we can make sensible decisions about the condition of this patient. And again, more easy to understand graphics. Here's a red. I know immediately I've got to do something with this patient. Now, you could say to me, well, come on, it's pretty darned obvious from that one that there's something wrong. And I don't disagree with you. But then I could say to a lot of optometrists, so there's something wrong there. What is wrong? What would you do with that? And that's when we'd get some hesitation coming with some people. And it may well be due to lack of training. It may be due to lack of understanding. And there's nothing wrong with that. But this may be the one reason why people say, well, that's why I don't use it, because I don't really know what it is. Whereas with artificial intelligence there to help you, you can now immediately see the answer that you've got there and guiding you along the way there. And so you want something there that gives you clear alerts for the pathology. So let's turn to question 4 now. You're doing very well on your answer so far. So let's see how you do with question 4. What do we mean by the term device agnostic? So on 2 or 3 occasions, I've referred to this within the presentation. So what do we mean by device agnostic? I'm beginning to wonder from these answers whether I made these questions far too easy. So yes, the important thing here is AI is device agnostic. It will give you the correct answers you are seeking, regardless of the device that DICOM image is coming from. So again, it gives you that versatility. So also, when I'm seeing changing, I want to be able to possibly measure what I'm looking at. Now you'll see here we talk about height and length of anomalies within the retina. Nowadays that would be referred to as height and width within the retina, and we can look at areas of change within the retina, and that can be measured along a line scan, and so what you will get is the measurements at that scan within the retina. And so you can begin to plot data, and this is where it's really important in terms of progression analysis. Are things getting better? Are things changing over time? Are they getting worse? And so you can begin to sort of populate more information within your understanding of what's happening within this patient's eye. And again, this is the sort of data that you will see here. And so we've got some soft drusen there. You can actually measure the area of that soft drusen. And next time, is it large? Is it a larger area? Is it a smaller area? Is it regressing? Is it increasing? And indeed, you can then do segmentation volume, where you can actually say we've got some edema, as in this case here. You can actually measure the volume of the edema that's there. Again, very, very important from the point of view of progression analysis. Is the thing getting worse? Is it getting better? And again, the very latest software, this will be portrayed in graphical terms as well. So you can actually see the progression over successive visits for this patient. So again, really, really important additional information that the AI can give you instantly. And remember, although some machines may well do this in their own right, the beauty of the AI here is that it is giving you these measurements, as we said before, in this agnostic way from machine to machine. So you've got that capability time and time again to move between machines. And then just quickly here, I want reports at the end of this. If I have got change going on, I want to be able to create reports that I can share with others. I can share with my colleagues in secondary care. And so reports need to be easy to compile as well. So any AI system must be able to give you concise reports that not only make it clear to me, but make it clear within my report of what I am sending on. So again, within examination reports, you want to be able to add or take out things that are or aren't relevant. So if you want to show progression within the report, if you want to show different layers, you want to show different segmentations and classifications, you want all of this ability to build the report that gives you, in your opinion, the most relevant data that the receiving clinician, the receiving ophthalmologist can make use of. And again, this is what we're seeing here. Again, concise report very much highlights what the change is, what's going on. And at the same time, I want something that tells me really, what do I need to be doing with this? I was going to refer this patient probably as a routine in my initial thinking. What on earth was I thinking of? You know, the AI is saying to me, whoa, hey, hang on. You can see there's a lot of change there. There's a lot of edema there. Actually, this is diabetic macular edema. You really should be referring this on quite an urgent basis here. So, you know, this is my friend nudging me in the back again and saying, I think you really ought to do that pretty pronto. And so even if I wasn't sure what to do with this patient, I want a system that's going to tell me what it does. And this is where artificial intelligence takes that out for us. So let's turn to question 5 then. And let's just see where we go to this. So we talked about reputational risk earlier on. What is reputational risk? Okay, thank you very much. Let's end that poll there. Yeah, reputational risk is a threat or danger to the good name or standing of a business or an entity. It's your reputation we're talking about. A risk to the security of the fabric of a building or its surrounds, a perceived loss of confidence in the local authority. Somebody's got their electioneering hat on, I think, at the moment. But yeah, you protect your reputation with everything you've got. So now what I'm going to do is, Maria, can I ask you to come in at this stage? Maria's going to show us some actual examples here, some case studies.
Yeah, so here are some real-life clinical examples of how AI can assist us. So here is a case of a 27-year-old woman with myopia, and she had complaints of metamorphopsia and decreased visual acuity in her right eye in the last 4 months. Basically here you can see her OCT. And it was analyzed by AI, and look what was found. So such biomarkers as diffuse edema, epiretinal fibrosis, cysts, retinal wrinkling, and lamellar macular hole were detected as a biomarker. In the classification, AI detected that the diagnosis might be an epiretinal fibrosis and lamellar macular hole. After that, this patient was referred to an ophthalmologist, and after all the examinations and investigation, the final ophthalmic diagnosis was epiretinal membrane, lamellar macular hole, and she was recommended to get a consultation with a vitreoretinal surgeon. So you can see how precise the diagnosis of AI was in this case. Another case of a 58-year-old man with myopia, and he had myopia since childhood, family history of glaucoma, no symptoms, and he came just for a new pair of glasses, and he was investigated with he underwent OCT examinations, and here what you can see. So if we look to classification detected by AI, so it was basically no pathology detected in this case, but it was detected the high level of glaucoma risk. So here you can see that AI, by analyzing the ganglion cell complex, detected the high risk of glaucoma in this patient. Again, he had no complaints, like nothing special. So he underwent additional diagnostic methods, and the final ophthalmic diagnosis was primary open-angle glaucoma on his both eyes. And basically, he started an anti-glaucoma treatment. And basically, AI was the first tool that detected the risk of this pathology. Again, one more case of a 67-year-old woman with complaints of decreased visual acuity during the last 2 months, and she had history of type 2 diabetes during 18 years, and you can see that the retina is damaged from her OCT exam, and basically look at what biomarkers were detected: diffuse edema, floaters, intraretinal hyperreflective foci, hard exudates, intraretinal cystoid fluid, and you can see the classification of AI was diabetic macular edema and diabetic retinopathy. So she underwent different examinations, and final ophthalmic diagnosis was diabetic retinopathy and diabetic macular edema, and she was prescribed anti-VEGF therapy. So basically, these 3 cases that were taken from our real life practice showed us that AI helps us not to miss pathologies even in early or asymptomatic stages, shows us how different pathologies basically look like with this coloring, which is also a part of our education, postgraduate education, gives us an idea of diagnosis and gives us confidence of what we see. And basically it makes our work more efficient, I would say. Right, Simon? What would you say?
Marvelous. Thank you, Maria. That glaucoma one absolutely fascinates me, because we probably just wouldn't have picked that up by any other method. Then suddenly there is AI saying, whoa, high risk of glaucoma there, and what happened? We're into saving this person's sight at a very early stage, and that's AI working for us. So question 6 then, last of the questions. And which of the following statements is not true? There you are, there's a nice negative one to end up with. So which of these following statements is not true?
Sorry, I put on the wrong poll. I guess I need the next one. I'm so sorry. So is not true. 3, 4.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
here it is. Here we go. We can answer.
Interesting. So again, conscious of time here, so we'll end the poll there. And most of you are correct in what you're saying. The segmentation results show the definitive diagnosis of a condition. No, they don't. Segmentation are the biomarkers. It's showing you the things that are wrong within the retina, but it's not telling you, therefore, what the diagnosis is within that retina. All the others are true. The only one that might not be true is AI is an increasingly useful tool. I just think AI, forget increasingly, it is a useful, if not vital tool in eye health clinic settings. So just in summary then, and we're going to just take a few questions if anybody's got any questions, but I'm going to ask, once I've done the summary here, if Maria, you could bring up that webinar, that poll for people to fill in. But in summary, diagnostic imaging, we all know, has come of age. But the next step is how we accurately interpret that image. And there's never going to be a replacement for human intelligence and human experience. But AI is that adjunct to our very profound clinical skills. Embracing artificial intelligence enhances us as clinicians, and it assists us in our diagnosis and assessment to be faster and more accurate. And so importantly, allows us to communicate so much better with the patient. And basically, in very short time, AI is set to become as much a part of our consulting rooms as the patient themselves. And that's where the future goes. But to me, as somebody who analyzes images, frankly, the sooner I can have artificial intelligence across the whole of the retina, out to the periphery, and we can pull in that assistant next to us, the sooner I'm going to be very, very happy. So basically, Maria's now put in the link in the chats there. So if you could everybody here can download that, fill that in and submit it back to us, that would be absolutely wonderful. Remember, no response, no point is, and it'd be a great shame because you've all been so good tonight. And we have got a few seconds left if anybody has any questions. But I have to say, Maria, I don't think we've had any questions come up. So can it be that we've covered everything perfectly? Or maybe could it be that everybody is just so gobsmacked and so enthralled by the prospects of AI in their consulting room?
Well, let's see for a couple of minutes. Maybe some questions are about to come, but I think this webinar was wonderful and it was really very informative. And thank you so much for telling all those wonderful things about AI and how it can assist our practice. I think that now AI is not something extraordinary in our practice, and more people starting using it in their everyday clinical practice, and hope that those examples that I showed to you will will help you to make that decision, at least to try using AI in your clinical practice. I think it might help you a lot, really.
Just to say, I've just looked at the Q&A tab as opposed to the chat tab, and there are some questions in there, and some of them are quite interesting ones. So we have a question here.
Yeah. So if Simon, if you could open the Q&A tab, there is like lots of questions. Can you see it? Yeah.
Yeah. So just one very quick one. So somebody wanted the clarification. The quotes from Piers Keane and David Crabb form part of an article in the College of Optometrists journal Acuity, and they're not the position of the college. That is correct. Those were direct quotes taken from articles written in the college's journal Acuity. That's not the college's sort of line. It's their comments as experts in the retinal field. So is the Altris AI machine able to analyze peripheral OCT scans or just macular-centric ones?
Yeah, it's about macular scans, and basically Altris AI is not a machine. It's just it's a cloud-based solution. So basically, you can use it in your Google Chrome tab. So it's not a separate machine. It's something that you can use in your computer. All you need is just an internet connection, and that's it. And yes, now it works only with central macular scans.
Can I just add there? Well, whilst I was first working with this software, and I thought I'll be a bit of a devil's advocate here, and I will throw into the Altris software a peripheral OCT scan from an Optomat Silverstone system, and I think I was slightly gobsmacked that it had a blooming good go at analyzing it, and I was surprised just how much information I got out of it, even though it's not meant to do that. And what I would say is, please, can we get out to that era as soon as possible? Because ultra wide field retinal imaging, obviously with ultra wide field OCT, it's got to happen, and I think it will happen in time, but currently there has to be a limit on some things, doesn't there, really, Maria? So, and there's a interesting one here. If a clinician is swayed by the AI suggestions leading to an incorrect diagnosis, will having AI hinder or help the clinician's defense? And these are questions that we quite often hear, and I should be probably a bit rotten here, but they always sound a bit defensive. Any decision a clinician makes, if they have sound backup and sound judgment in what they do, you will be judged by your peer view, as they say. So if somebody said to you, "Why did you do that?" and you said, "Well, the computer told me to," then probably wouldn't have a lot of sympathy. But if it was a case of, well, AI was saying this, and as a result of that, I went on and did the following tests, and I was happy with my diagnosis of that, it's demonstrated that AI, very much like any human being, if they said, well, I think it's this, AI doesn't know everything, believe it or not. So if you demonstrate that AI was part of your clinical diagnostic set, then no, it won't be held against you at all. But if you just say, well, I got AI and it told me it was that, then actually you might be in problems. So remember what I said throughout, it's your partner in the consulting room. It's not your boss. So let's have a look here. Somebody's asked here, because obviously we've been talking about software this evening, and somebody's asked here, can you try the software first to see you're happy it's working with your OCT and everything?
Yeah, I gave a link, as you can see. So basically you can go, you can try it, you can look how it works, you can see all the possibilities that you are getting before you buy. So yeah, no problem. You can go, it's absolutely free.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Maria. Question from John. Does this work on any type of OCT scan? Is there a minimum or optimum number of scans, B scans, and distance between B scans?
Well, basically, you may analyze one B scan, but we recommend that you analyze the whole DICOM, because when you analyze the whole examination, the whole DICOM, so many additional features are available, such as measurements of pathologies and all this stuff. So basically, all you need is to learn how to export DICOM files. But still, if you need to analyze just one scan, no problem, you can do that.
That's great. And just one last question here, which I thought was quite interesting. Hopefully you can answer this one, Maria. The software looks very interesting. Did you have any problems with data bias, and how did you mitigate against this if you did?
Not really. It's GDPR compliant. We do not use data that are uploaded, so we don't keep it. we don't use it. So no.
Brilliant. Lovely.
Mm-hmm.
Maria, I think that'll bring the session to an end this evening. It's been a great session. I've loved working on this, and I want to thank you all once again for attending this evening. I hope you've enjoyed the session. Please do make sure you fill in that form and submit it back to us. And once again, my very, very grateful thanks to Altris for sponsoring this evening's event. Thank you very much. And please, all of you, enjoy using artificial intelligence as you go forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Bye-bye. Don't forget to fill in the Google form for getting your certificate. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.